So maybe you see people around you in these long lasting relationships where they truly feel fulfilled and happy. And you find yourself wondering, what is their secret? How do they make it look so easy? Well, what is it that makes securely attached individuals often attract fulfilling love and have other individuals sometimes struggle more so in their relationships? Because sometimes it can feel like you're left out or excluded while you see everybody in your life starting to maybe settle down and you feel like you are having a hard time finding stable and thriving love. Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about exactly why it is, and there's 4 major reasons why securely attached individuals thrive in their love life. And we'll talk about more specifically how you can learn these things and reverse engineer them and replicate them in your own personal life accordingly. And, I think it's really important to point out before we even dive into this content that securely attached individuals, research shows very conclusively they have the longest lasting relationships, which could really mean nothing because you could be in a relationship that lasts for a long time but is miserable. But along with the longest lasting relationships, securely attached individuals report being the most fulfilled, the most actually happy, and feeling truly connected in their relationships. So obviously, there's something there to learn. So let's unpack this. If you're new to this channel, my name is Thais. I'm the founder of the Personal Development School, and I've worked in this field of psychology, attachment styles, and relationships for the past more than a decade, closer to about 12 or so years. And I am going to share all of the learnings and findings here with you today. So one of the first things that's really important to recognize, and I'm just going to start saying this in every single YouTube video from now on, because I think that it's just not nearly talked about enough, is that according to Harvard Business Review, this is a pretty well-known fact, your conscious mind, okay, so your conscious mind, your logical thinking, analytical self, the part of you kind of think of as like your personality, it is responsible for 3 to 5% of all of your beliefs and thoughts and emotions and actions or decisions. While your subconscious mind, which is kind of your programmed self, like your habits, who you habitually are without thinking consciously about it, is responsible for 95 to 97%. In other words, your subconscious mind runs your life, not your conscious mind. And what that also means is that unless we are talking about healing and doing deeper work when it comes to anything related to healing as a whole or personal growth, unless we're bringing the subconscious mind into the conversation, there's going to be limitations to it. That you may learn powerful concepts and you may intellectualize them and have these aha moments, but unless you apply tools through repetition and emotion to truly rewire these patterns, intellectualizing things may not change your life. Making them habitual by actually conditioning them into your subconscious mind, because we have neuroplasticity and we can change our patterns. That is how the real work is done. So let's talk about this. So here's what securely attached individuals have working for them on autopilot. In other words, in their habits. Well, in order to unpack that, look at where our habits come from. Well, so much of how a securely attached individual is conditioned, in other words, how they get programmed at a subconscious level, has to do with the fact that in childhood, and it literally, so much of it hinges on this, and this is wild because it's so small with such a big impact. So much of it hinges on the fact that in childhood, they get a tremendous amount of approach-oriented behaviors. What does that mean? It means that in childhood, they have caregivers who are A, attuned to them, so who are present with them, and B, when they see, because they pick up very quickly, when they see their child not feeling great, feeling distressed, upset, they go towards them, they approach them, and they try to figure out what's wrong. And they make an attempt to soothe them. Why is that so meaningful? Because what that does is it teaches a child that, number one, I am worthy of love, even in my moments of feeling stressed, even in my moments of being upset. Number two, I can trust that people will care for me. Number three, it is safe to be vulnerable because I'm vulnerable and my needs actually get met when that happens. And number four, that creates a much deeper sense of self-confidence when you feel like you're worthy and you can trust people, and even your negative emotions are worthy of love and acceptance and care. I mean, that really has a huge impact on a person's development in regards to their self-esteem. And they also learn that I can rely on people and it's safe to do so. So, there's a lot of these different dynamics that shape how a person sees themselves and their relationships. And because this modeling starts at such a young age, there's a tremendous amount of conditioning that teaches, hey, relationships are pretty healthy and safe overall. As children get older, they also learn, I can communicate through problems and it's safe to have boundaries and needs. And so they learn these different things. But what are the actual four major things that we can take away from that? Because those are things that securely attached individuals actually struggle with. Okay. So they get approach-oriented behaviors in childhood, just to summarize. And that means that as an adult, they've got a lot of trust, feeling safe to rely on other people, higher sense of self-worth, etc. But what are the actual tangibles? How can we take that understanding and be like, well, what does that mean for other insecure attachment styles? Well, here is the first thing. They have less attachment wounding. Okay. So there's four major things here. Number one, less attachment wounds. When we don't get our needs met in childhood and when we are seeking them or, we're going through a hard time, when we don't get our needs met, we often make it mean things like I'm not good enough or I'm unloved or I'm going to be abandoned because somebody's pulling away when I need my needs to be met. Then we store those things and they become core wounds. Okay. Imagine that you go out into the forest tomorrow and you see a bear and you run away and you're safe, but then you go into the forest the next day. What happens? You're like, oh my God, where's the bear? And you're looking and you're worrying. Our brain is designed to store potential threats. And then once we've stored them, in order to protect ourselves from them, we reproject them out onto everything. In other words, if you're a child and somebody pulls away from you a lot, and you make that mean I'm abandoned, or some people are always pulling away, I feel alone, abandoned, rejected, guess what happens? Just like you would with a bear in the woods, you store those potential threats. And then in your adult life, you're like, I'm going to be abandoned. I'm going to be rejected. And we project them onto everything, which wreaks havoc on our relationships. Because what that actually means is that as an adult, the moment somebody doesn't text you back enough, the moment that somebody is, a little bit ambiguous with how they're making plans or you don't understand things, the moment that those things happen, you sit there and you're like, I'm being abandoned, I'm being rejected. And we jump to conclusions instead of just asking for clarity or communicating a need. Hey, consistency is important to me, or clarity is important to me. Or instead of even just making sure that we vet to see how people show up and choose what we want. Instead, we go into like, oh, I'm going to be abandoned or rejected. And then we do all the people pleasing behaviors and all these things to try to stop that from happening, or we end up in an argument, right? All these things. The basis of this is what I'm trying to say is that the more attachment wounds we have, the more we project them onto our relationships as an adult, the more triggering relationships thus become. And the more there are downsides to how we'll behave when we feel those things or when we're afraid. We may cling on too tight and violate people's boundaries if we think we're being abandoned. We may shut down and push people away because we're so scared of being trapped or we're scared of being hurt. So we reject them before we get rejected. And so there's a lot of sabotage that happens. Okay. So point number one, securely attached individuals, they don't really have many core wounds. Insecure attachment styles, they all have tons of core wounds. And we talk about them a ton on this channel. And as a part of integrated attachment theory, the body of work that I've published over the past 10 years to really showcase you can heal and change your attachment style, the first pillar we target is how to leverage our understanding of neuroplasticity and how to leverage our understanding of how the subconscious mind works. You're not born with core wounds. They get conditioned into you because of how the subconscious mind gets conditioned. We can just leverage those same principles and recondition, and it's easy. I have lots of videos about that on this channel, about core wound reprogramming. You can fully check out, before I tell you these other 3 points, you can fully check out any course on reprogramming at PDS, 14 days for free. I recommend, if you want to do a deep dive into reprogramming, the Emotional Mastery and Belief Reprogramming course, or 21 tools to reprogram your subconscious mind. So, number one, securely attached individuals have less core wounds. You can change your core wounds if you have them. Okay. Really important to know, life-changing to do. Number two, securely attached people know their needs and they're not afraid to. Number three, they go hand in hand together, communicate them in a relationship. And what I mean by this is you'll know if you feel loved when somebody does acts of service around the house and supports you. If somebody, spends time with you, like really emotionally connecting with you. Emotional connection is a big need. Support is a need in relationships. Feeling validated, encouraged is so important for some people, while other people feeling like they can be free and independent is important. When we know our needs in a relationship, we can have conversations about them. We can talk about them, and we basically can give the roadmap to other people of how we feel most loved. And through communicating with other people, it empowers us to understand other people's needs and what they need to feel most loved. Because I can't even begin to tell you how many times I would work with clients in the past who love other people how they would want to be loved instead of how that person wants to be loved, right? So let's pretend we have an anxious attachment style. They may give lots of validation and tons of time and attention to somebody because that's how they would need love. But maybe they have a partner who needs a little more freedom and independence or even novelty, just doing new things together. But if we would like love through the validation and lots of attention and lots of time together, we probably love other people that way, not realizing that, oh, they may love in a different flavor in a sense. And our needs are really what color that way more than love languages, by the way, which I've talked about on this channel, because they're more specific and they're more nuanced, and it's how people feel the most loved. So do you know your needs? Can you meet them in the relationship to yourself? And can you communicate them with other people? Those are the next two pillars of the four. So know core wounds, we reprogram core wounds, we learn our needs, we meet them in ourselves. It's a huge part of self-soothing. We communicate them to other people and vice versa so that we can deepen our connection through emotional literacy, through understanding of other people and not just projecting what we would need onto others as a form of love. Last major thing, healthy boundaries. Securely attached people don't put up with a whole bunch of BS forever. If somebody is not showing up in a relationship, they'll tell them, I need more consistency or I need more of XYZ in a relationship. And because they're doing this, they actually then vet to see, does the person show up? They don't listen for what somebody says. Oh yeah, I promise I'll do that in the future. And they never do. They watch and they vet people's actions. They see, does the person actually show up after they said that they would, after we had this conversation? And they won't commit to being in a relationship with somebody unless they're actually seeing these things and seeing the needle move. And so that helps them uphold their sense of self-esteem because they're not settling for a bunch of chaos or events that are not helpful in what they're looking for. And it also allows them to have good boundaries around these things, right? They don't stick in relationship dynamics that make them feel not good, that make them feel pulled down. So, in summary, those are four things. You can change all four of these things at a subconscious level in your own life. And those are four of the most major pillars for how we become securely attached. There's really one other pillar. I talk all about this on this channel. It's really about regulating your nervous system so that you can feel more present and less triggered by things more often. But these are the most major things that cause a securely attached person to thrive in relationships. They have less core wounds, so they take things less personally. They know how they want to be loved. They know how to communicate that to other people and love other people the way they need to be loved. They have healthy boundaries, so they pick the right people in relationship dynamics. And again, all of these things can be reverse engineered. So if you want to do a deeper dive, we have all of our courses at the Personal Development School designed in a personalized program per attachment style, tackle these specific pillars at the subconscious level of mind. Because unless you do that, you're just learning information. You're not changing your own patterning and your own wiring. And that's really important to do. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to this channel. I would love to have you here. I put daily videos out here on a whole bunch of these different topics. And I'm really excited that you watched, that you stuck all the way till the end. And yeah, thank you for being here.